like, what's the dream of? What's the hope in? What's the doubt for? Live to no end. This is living. The life I've been given is a gift. If I'm a living, I'ma live it to death. So what's the dream of? What's the hope in? What's the doubt for? And live to no end. This is living. The life I've been given is a gift. If I'm a living, I'ma live it to death. Yeah.
Welcome to the Living Hope Agency Call. Every single week, we bring you top agency managers and top salespeople in the world of Family First Life. And today we're going to be talking about how to create and maintain momentum while you're selling and building an agency. My name is Josh Lockhart with FFL Gloves Off. Really happy to be here. All right, so let's dive in. Momentum. What is momentum? Momentum is the thing that allows you to perform better than what you really are. Right? That's the thing. If anybody's experienced this, type in the chat me. I want to see who can identify with this, right? This is when you're doing something. It could be insurance. It could be something else, maybe a former job, past job, but let's talk about insurance, right? You're on the phone and it feels like everybody you talk to books with you, or every time they give you an objection, you have the answer and they take it and you're crushing it. Or every time you get into the presentation, you're like, my closing percentage is ridiculous. You just put somebody in front of me and I'll close them down. Put your mama in front of me, Quentin Kelly, I'll close her too. Has anybody ever felt like that, or is that just me? Am I the only one that's ever felt that way? Okay, definitely Candy Hooder, definitely Josh Fochman, Quentin Kelly. Yeah, these are the folks that I know have felt that way. Okay. So what happens? You have that high, you're crushing it, and then now, here's the other side of that. Who's ever had the feeling that every person I call doesn't answer? Every person says, gives me the objection, all the objections, right? I want to think about it. I didn't fill it out. That's not me. Kick bricks, get out of my face. Every presentation, they don't have any money. They don't have a bank account. They want to talk to their spouse. And it seems like no matter what you do, you can't get things going, right? Has anybody ever felt like that? All right. Couple. The rest of you are non-participants or lying. All right. Because we deal with this funny thing called people. And no matter what happens, you're going to have highs, you're going to have lows. You can't sustain perfect forever, right? I was talking to an agent and they experience one of these highs and then they experience the low and they're like, this just isn't me. Like, I close every home I go into. And I'm like, well, no, you don't, because if you miss one, then you're not 100%. You can't be 100% all the time. Like, we deal with people. Sometimes they're awesome. Sometimes they're interesting. Sometimes they're crazy. Like, you never know what's going to happen, right? But what the difference is this thing called momentum. When you have momentum, you have confidence, right? You have swagger. You're doing all of the things that you need to be at the top of your game, right? Candy Hooder's in the chat. We talked about her, right? She was on a call a while back and she's like, here are the things that I do to make sure I'm showing up for my clients, the best self, right? I practice my script in the morning, right? I make sure my energy's on point, right? I eat, I drink enough water, I go for walks, I do all these things. So I know I'm my sharpest. And then momentum happens, and momentum, you see on the leaderboard, it's the people all the time that are putting all the big numbers up. And you're like, man, and what do we tell ourselves? Okay. You tell yourself, oh, if I had the same lead flow as Nat DiCarlo, I bet I would be selling more. If I knew what Candy's schedule was, I would just run that schedule and I would be successful like her, right? If I just knew what the word track was for Sean Simpson, I bet I could sell policies like him, right? And so what happens, and I'm not saying don't seek out good information, but what happens is, those people or anybody that's making a lot of money or a lot of sales, they jump on a call and they tell you what they're doing. And you're like, I'm going to stop doing what I'm doing and I'm going to try to be just like them. And you're just like them until the next person gets on and they say something just a little bit different. They go, well, I work these leads. And then you stop working those leads and you work these leads. And then you start doing that for a while. And then somebody else gets on and says, well, I do one call, one closes, and this is how I do it. So then you try to start doing that thinking each time somebody that makes maybe $1 more than the last person, you're going to go do what they do. And then you're on this never ending cycle of, I can't seem to get it together. Is that just me, or can anybody relate to that? Right? Yes. Thank you. Thank you for the smiles. I can only see a couple of you, by the way. So, all right. So here's the deal. Like, let's simplify this thing down. It's not the leads, right? It's not the magical script, right? It's not necessarily the schedule. It's this thing called having momentum. All right. So there's a few things, if you have it down, like, you can make it work for yourself. Okay. So let's address leads real quick. All right. So if we talk to everybody on this call right now, this person might be buying more, let's say, Facebook final expense leads. And then this person might be doing a few more mortgage leads. And then the next person might be doing more internet leads. And the next person might be doing some mail leads, right? Like, each person is going to have their own deal. All right. But that's not the issue. Not the kind of lead isn't the issue. Now, I'm a firm believer you should have some kind of diverse, developed lead flow, right? What does that mean? That means, well, let's have, 25%, I don't know, something like final expense mailers. You can get them out of the CRM. There's a lot of places to get them. Maybe some Facebook generated leads. You can get those a lot of places, CRM, outside of the CRM, what have you. For volume, get some sort of internet-based lead. And then maybe if you can throw in some mortgage mail and have 3 or 4 different types of leads. If you can do that, the point is you never have a shortage of lead. Okay. So think about your day and what you do in your day. All right. The number one thing is that you're keeping in motion, right? When it's not working for us, what are we tempted to do? We're tempted to sit back and try to think our way into success, right? Oh man, if I just did this, if I just did that, or, maybe if I talk to this guy or that guy, they can tell me what to do, and then I'll do it. And you're sitting there and mentally you're working all day, but you're not actually doing anything. So you're expending energy, you're tired, but you've done absolutely nothing. Okay. So first things first is keep in motion. Yes, Candy, buy more leads. Right. And Candy, I think you told somebody this. So if you said this, I'm going to give you credit on this call. After this call, I said it, it's mine. Okay. I believe Candy, she said, like, some people set appointments, some people do one call, one closes. I like to set appointments. That's what I like to do. But if you're not careful, if you just set appointments in the morning and have appointments in the evening, you can catch yourself where there's a several hour gap where you don't necessarily have anything to do. Now, there's plenty of things to fill that time, but you can certainly not have any appointments to go to, and you've called like your leads for the day or whatever, right? And so what Candy says is, hey, you need to make sure you're dialing all day, because if you're not, then by the time you get to your appointments, you got to like psych yourself up for it, right? You're like, oh man, this person's probably going to no-show. They're probably not going to answer. They're probably going to give me the roundaround. I don't even want to deal with it anyways. And you hop on the phone and you have a bad attitude, right? And so, but if you keep in motion, you keep fresh, right? That's the number one thing, right? Is keep moving. If you've ever heard this saying that an idle mind is the devil's playground, right? An idle mind is the devil's playground. That means when you're not doing anything, you don't have anything going on, that's when the thoughts and the doubts and everything starts creeping in. Do not let that happen, right? And if you're part-time and you're like, well, I can't work all day. Well, yeah, as soon as you get off work, get to work, right? Keep moving, all right? Because when you keep moving, what happens? You are in practice. That's the second thing, is you keep your skills sharp, all right? So for anybody who has like a really good week, let's say anybody on this call right now that you have helped 10 families or more in a single week, okay? And at any point in your time in, this business here, let's say you've gone on vacation, or you went on an extended, staycation, or you were out of the field for 4 or 5 days. Was it harder when you got back? Like, you just sold so much insurance, and then you came back, and all of a sudden, like, no one's like, you're in your head. You're like, did I lose my power? Can I sell anything ever again? Right. And that's because it's called, in boxing, it's called ring rust, right? If you let too much time go by, you get rusty. You don't even know that it's happening. You're like, I'm reading the script. I'm reading the words on the page. Why aren't they responding? It's because it's your tone. It's the music in your voice, right? You can answer the phone and you can sound like somebody died. You can answer the phone and sound like you mean business, or, like, this is something that I do. I'm very laid back and relaxed most of the time. And when I go back and I listen to myself, it comes across when I say things like I don't care. Like I would say, hey, Kasha, let's meet for coffee at 5 o'clock. But if I say it in a certain way, she's going to think, well, it's no big deal if I show up or not, versus like, hey, this is important. Can you be there? Don't be 5 minutes late, right? That all comes across in the way we talk. But if you've been, sipping Mai Tais on the beach for a week, and I'm not saying don't go on vacation, like you're going to come back and you're not going to have the intensity. You have to keep your skills sharp. So what are you doing to keep sharp? Are you practicing your script? Are you reading it over and over and over again? Are you on live dials? Listen to people. Have you ever heard yourself do a call, right? Have you ever recorded yourself and listened to yourself? If you haven't, it will freak you out. You're like, that's what I sound like? I wouldn't buy for myself. No, why am I expecting other people to, right? So if you have phone burner, there's a lot of easy places you can do it. You can actually turn on a toggle feature that turns on, it will record all of your calls. And you can go in your call log and you can just go and click on the ones that have answered, and you can listen to those. And I encourage you to, it's like if you're a professional sports athlete, right, you're going to watch game film. This is no different, right? You can get paid just as much. All right. So number one is you got to keep moving. You got to keep in perpetual motion, right? Number two is keeping your skills sharp. That goes without saying. Number three is you got to stay focused. What I mean by focus, I just talked about it, but it's all the 1% little things. Okay. And so if I say, hey, what is your schedule? What is your plan this coming week? Not today, not last week, but based on what your goals are, what's your schedule look like this coming week for your business? Now, when I started, there's two types of people in my book in FFL when it comes to making sales. There's people that run 30 appointments a week, and they're like on this top tier. It doesn't matter how much they sell, they run 30 appointments a week. And there's everybody below that does not run 30 appointments a week. Now, maybe your point part-time. Okay, fine. You can still run 20. But if you are saying you're full-time, or better yet, if you don't have another job and you're not running 30 appointments a week, whether it be telesales or in-home, right? You are kidding yourself. Like that's what I was told day one. It was like, this is law. This is the Bible. Either you do this or you don't. And I'll tell you, the people that run 30 appointments a week, they might have a bad week. They rarely have a bad month. And these are the people that we see on the leaderboard from week to week to week. Okay. And so what is your schedule to get that appointment count in? And here's the challenge, especially on telesales, right? So like really examine what's going on. It's like, maybe you're the person that does one call, one closes. Okay. And so you're probably not tracking, maybe you are, you're not tracking appointments. You're just like, oh, I made X amount of dials today and it didn't go my way. It's like, well, it didn't go my way. Like, yes, it happens, but like, you can only use that excuse for like a day, right? Because, you can't take your excuses and pay your bills with them. No one cares, right? So by the end of the week, if somebody asks you, hey, how many appointments do you get? And you don't have a good answer, or you look at that, then you can't tell if are you full-time or not, right? And so how are you going to get those 30 appointments in? You have to have these little mini targets to stay on track, because what can happen? You get to the end of the day and you're like, what did I do to make money? Well, I made 200 calls, let's say. Okay, is that good enough or not? Did I do any presentations? I did 2. Well, those aren't great numbers. What did you fill your day with? Did you fill your day with worrying, watching YouTube videos in the middle of the day of FFL, or doing other things non-related to making money, right? And so maybe if you get a little more rigid, maybe it looks something like this, okay? From 8 to noon, right, which is 4 hours, let's say 8 to 11, you dial with the intent of making 200 dials. All right. And could you do 2 presentations in that time? Just 8 to 11. That's it. You start at 8, you end at 11. You don't start at 8:10, 8:30, 8 to 11. Okay. Go grab lunch. You come back and you do 1 to 4. Another $200 and, another 2 presentations. So that's 4 presentations. That's $400. Now, if you really want to get serious, all right, let's go 6 to 9. Another $200, another 2 presentations. By the end of the day, that's $600. That is 6 presentations. If you did that 5 days a week, what is that? 30 appointments. All right. So it's you either do it or you don't do it. And if you're focused on that every week, because what's going to happen if you don't focus on it, and we go back and we looked at your last week, you go, oh, I actually only did 23 appointments. And you told yourself that it was because you were sloppy. You told yourself it was because the clients had excuses. And really, those 7 appointments were probably the 7 that were going to buy. Right? That's a 1% thing that if you don't focus on, you're going to get slack on. Okay. The other thing could be the client inventory. We talk about this all the time, right? You go through a streak. Is this happening to anybody? You felt like you're writing policies and everybody gets declined. Has that ever happened? Right? Type a D in the chat if that has happened. You went through, you're like, how is everybody getting declined? Right? Well, again, things can happen. Things can happen. But if it goes for like a week or 2, that's probably you getting sloppy. Did you ask all of the questions? Did you check all of the build charts? Did you double check your underwriting, right? When they said I'm on anxiety and depression meds, because we know that's like, that goes all over the place. Did you ask what meds they were on and then look them up to see if they crossed over into being bipolar or schizophrenic, right? So I went through a time like that and I'm like, man, everybody's getting declined. And then when I got through, I said, you know what? I got so comfortable and confident in going through the same questions and everybody was getting approved and money was good that I got sloppy and I just started assuming things and what happens when you assume, right? We all know what that. Exactly. So focus on staying sharp, right? Asking questions, client inventory, the rebuttals, doing the same thing every time. All right. Next one, positive environment. Positive environment, right? You're going to hit a wall. I wish this wasn't true, but you're going to hit a wall. It's going to be frustrating. If you don't, that means you're just not playing hard enough. You're not playing to win, right? When it gets tough, right? There's the spiral doom, right? You have chargebacks with several carriers. Everybody's getting declined, right? The leads aren't working. You're watching everybody else put up numbers and you're not putting up numbers. And you're like, well, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm not cut out for this. Somebody at home is telling you maybe go get a job or, you work too hard. You deserve a day off, right? It's like, no, none of that's true, right? It's when it gets tough, are you around people that are winning? Are you around people that are going to tell you, say, hey, Josh, listen, you're being emotional. Take a deep breath. Right? Let's look at the numbers. Let's make a educated business decision on why, things are happening the way they're happening, and then let's fix it. Okay. Right? And if you're around those kinds of people, where do you find those people? You find them on live dials. You text them, you call them, you reach out, you ask for help. You go, hey, Quentin Kelly, you are somebody that is where I would want to be. I don't want to waste your time. But I just want to know, how did you get where you got? And there's plenty of people on here that are willing to share and willing giving you that positive word of wisdom if you will ask for it. What people will not do is they won't knock on your door or come to your house or call you on the phone and go, hey, Kasha, is anything going on that I could be helpful with? No, we all got our own stuff, right? The squeaky wheel gets the grease. If you got something on your mind, if you're struggling with something, you got to put your hand up and say, hey, I got some questions. Okay. Basic stuff. And the one enemy. Now, does anybody have one of those shirts, Humble and Hungry? Has anybody not seen the Humble and Hungry shirts? Okay. Now it's a cool saying. I think you can still get them at, on the Gateway, Family First Life Gateway, call the back office. I think there's an apparel store. Pick up one of the shirts, right? And so you have to look at it at least once in a while when you wear it. Why? Have you ever thought about why it says humble and hungry other than it's like a cool saying? Like, I don't know if this is why they named it this, but I was thinking about it today. Humble and hungry. What does that mean? Okay, we know it's like, okay, be humble and be hungry and strive for more. And yeah. The number one enemy that we all have to kick us out of momentum and lose our mojo is ego. Like that's not another one. Like that is it, right? Where we get too big, it shows up a couple different ways. Now, if you've ever done well, and now here's the thing with me saying that, have you ever done well in this business? Everybody's definition is different, right? It could be the person that used to make $2,000 a month on their job, and now they're making $2,000 a week. Now, for some people, that's like, wow, I'm barely making anything. For other people, that's like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. So all of a sudden, right, you start having some success, your version of success, and you start in your head going, I'm pretty good at this, right? I'm pretty good at this, and then as soon as you tell yourself that, you've already lost the battle. Because what happens, right? You're like, man, I just had a great week. I just sold 10 families. I just made a big sale. I just made more on this sale than I did all last week. I just made more in a month than I used to make, in 6 months, whatever the case is. All right. And then you go, man, I'm way better than I used to be. Like, this is my new normal. No, it's not. Right. You can go backwards. All right. I'm not going to name names, but there was an agent. And they're on this call. They were doing well. Right. They were spending, couple grand a month on leads. And then they had some really, really good months, like multiple 5-figure months. And they're like, this is amazing. All right. And they're like, I've figured it out. I've unlocked the code. This is where I'm at. This is my new normal. And then right after that, their sales got cut in half. Or I didn't say got cut in half. Their sales cut in half. And then they're kind of like freaking out, like, what's changed? What's different? I need to change my script. I need to change my leads. I need to change this. I need to change that. No, the big months, those were extraordinary, man. You had some big sales. Congratulations, right? Like, no matter how bad it is, it's not going to be bad forever. No matter good it is, it's not going to be that good forever. So when it came down to the normal, right, what's average, right, you go, oh gosh, what's going on? And really, you're just not that good. That's all it is. Okay. So when you feel yourself make progress and you're proud of yourself, be proud, but stay humble. That's when you should worry the most, right? Am I practicing my script? Am I asking all the underwriting questions? Am I listening to good, positive information? Am I talking to the right people? Am I staying on point? Am I making enough dials? The first thing to slip is how many dials you make, right? Maybe you're the person, it took you 600 dials, 700 dials sometimes to make a sale in a day. And that's what it took because that's what it took. And then all of a sudden, you started making more sales. And instead of going, hey, I'm actually starting to get ahead and doing the things that I need to do for my family, you go back to your old ways and you make a few less calls. On day one, it's not too many. Started out at 600, maybe it was 500. That's still a lot compared to other people. And then it's 400. That's still pretty decent compared to other people, right? And then, you start making more excuses. And if you've ever felt like, you're getting ready to call and you just don't want to deal with the people anymore, that is you coming up with reasons why you're at where you're at and you can't be one of the top people, right? That's what it means. Now, maybe you're like, well, I haven't had any success yet. Well, that can be like an ego in reverse. My problems are too big. My deficit is too big. I can't ever get there because I don't have X, Y, and Z. That is the same ego talking, right? So there's a Roman emperor named Marcus Aurelius. I heard this story. This is incredible. Now, this is like whole next level, right? None of us here are on this level. So he was the Roman emperor over the the biggest civilization at that time, right? He reigned over all of it. And he had a guy that he hired. And this person, I don't know what the official term for people that worked in the imperial court were, a jester maybe, I don't know. But this person, his only job was to whisper in the emperor's ear, "You're just a man. You're just a man. You're just a man. So I don't care how many sales you make, how good you do, you're just a man, all right? Stay sharp." Okay. That's the humble, the hungry, okay? So here's the thing. I'm going to loop this in with building an agency, all right? It's a lot to mentally balance. It's more to mentally balance than to physically do, right? So you're selling, you're buying leads, you're calling leads, you're doing the dials, you're on the presentations, and you're like, oh my gosh, I cannot wrap my mind around one other thing. And people will say things like, I don't want to have to babysit people, and people don't get their tests done, and they don't go into contracting, and they complain and they whine and they do all these things that people do that you never do, right? You've never done it. Okay. And listen, it's, mentally it is a lot, right? It's a lot to go from, hey, I'm on this track and now I got to be on this track. And you're so used to, like, you're here and you're like, I just need to figure out this sales thing, or I'm so focused on getting sales done, I don't have the patience to wait on people that want it less than I do, right? Like, these are all the things that people think about and say, all right? But, right, not all of us, because some people are like, I don't want to build a business, I just want to sell, and they've got that figured out, and they've come to terms with that. If that works for them, they have an investment strategy on where to spend their money. I'm not talking to you, right? I'll come back to you in a second. I'm talking about everybody else. Most all of us here, they love the idea of like, oh man, I could have this business. I could run it from my phone. I could create passive income. I could pass on what I'm learning to other people, right? Like, I don't want to work just by myself. I like having other people around, okay? It's like, we go and we make a few sales, and I know a lot of you are making more money than what you used to make, myself included. And you start to be able to do some nicer things, right? You get to go to the restaurant and not look at the price, right? Maybe you taken that vacation that you've been meaning to go on, or, I made a little video for those that was with us on the yacht, right? My first sales job. I was the #1 in my district, and they gave me a $25 gift card. Next thing you know, we're renting out yachts, right? It's incredible. And you start to go like, life is getting pretty comfortable. And if you ever have that thought, that's when you should freak out, because we just talked about you're getting a little too big for your britches, as my mama would say. But also, right, if you're really honest, and be honest, right, you probably didn't start this to live where you're at right now financially. I know I didn't. Like, I am grateful for where I'm at. I'm grateful for where our business is, but I didn't start it to be here. I wanted to be there, right? And so you got to stay hungry. You got to stay on the hunt. And so what do I mean by that? All right. So take all the things that I just said about making sales and apply it to building the agency. Okay. So we do the same thing. We go, man, how do some people recruit agents, and they seem like every agent comes out of the gate swinging, they all sell 10 families a week and everything is great? That is not true, right? There's 2 ways to build a championship team. Number 1, you go recruit Tom Brady, right? Or the quarterback for the Chiefs, either one. I can't think of his name, but you recruit one of those guys. What does it take to recruit one of those guys? It takes a lot of money. It takes a lot of swagger. You got to be somebody to recruit that person. And chances are you're not, and neither am I. Now, you can become that person eventually, but you're probably not that person today. So you're not going to attract that top A+ tier talent. Not saying you can't, but you probably won't, at least for a while. Okay. The other way is you develop players. And what team have you ever been a part of, watched on TV, that it did not take a long time to develop a player? It does, right? What has to happen? You have to, it could be you. Maybe you're like, man, I was bad at this, and I had to like skin my knees up, and I got hung up on, and I didn't think I was going to make any money, and I didn't really believe in myself, and I didn't spend enough on leads. Well, just because you figured it out doesn't mean the people that you're bringing in figured it out, right? And so it takes time. So if you're hungry, right, to get to the next level, and you're patient enough and humble enough to go, okay, I know I have to do all the things, right? You'll stay in the hunt to find the people who at least want it as bad as they say they want it. They don't even have to want it as bad as you want it. They just have to want it as bad as what they say they want it, right? So again, this week, I'd write down some things, okay? If your plan is to build an agency, okay, there's no secret sauce, right? It's a volume game, okay? Which means that you're gonna talk to a lot of people that don't actually get started. You're gonna get started, meaning put in class a bunch of people that don't finish their test. You're gonna have a bunch of people that finish their test that actually don't start contracting. You're gonna have a bunch of people that go into contracting that don't actually sell anything because they never actually make the first phone call. And then you're gonna have people that make their first phone call that don't see it through, and they'll maybe not even show up to the presentation. And then you'll have some people that sell that don't continue to sell. And it is what it is, right? So instead of sitting down and trying to think your way on paper from A to Z to the finish line, so like, hey, here's the plan. If I just do this, I'm going to be rich, right? Just get moving, right? You're building them. You're not doing all this work forever. What you're doing is you're building a machine that will then do the work even when you get tired. What does that mean, right? Maybe today it's just you make a call and introduce a friend to the opportunity. That's number one. If you haven't done that, I would suggest doing that. You can share the Rogue IMO video. Then the next step is like, hey, what if you had a meeting every single week with somebody to talk about the opportunity? And if you've gone past that, what if you had 10 interviews a week to interview people about joining FFL in your agency? What would it take to do that? Well, we're like, I don't know that many people. Of course, me either, right? Could you go to the people that you do know and tell them your goals? Listen, this is simple, but if you haven't done this, you're missing out. Go to the people that you know and respect in your life that have nothing to do with insurance. You don't want them to buy. You're not asking them for anything. Saying, hey, Jack Frazier, love to chat with you. Let's go grab lunch. And I go, hey, Jack, I respect you. I'm building this insurance agency. These are my goals, right? I would like to build an agency that protects 1,000 families a month in the next year and a half. Ultimately, over the next 20 years, I'd like to build an agency that does $100 million. Okay. I'm looking for badass salespeople, preferably young men and women. Either they're getting ready to have a family or they have a family, because that was me. And I just wish somebody would show me the way. If you know of anybody like that, would you please let me know? I would love to help that guy or that gal. Okay. And that maybe goes nowhere. Maybe 3 months from now, Jack, I get a call from some guy named Steve, and he goes, yeah, my boy, Jack Frazier, told me to give you a call. He said that you're looking for sharp people and you have an opportunity, right? That's simple. That costs nothing. And then beyond that, right? The reason when I saw FFL, I didn't say, I can go and sell all this money so I can make a bunch of money for my family. Although that's what I ultimately want to do. That's not what I said to myself. I said, oh, the reason to sell so much is to have money and resources to then go build a business that's going to pay me passive income, right? So if you go, well, hey, I don't need to sell that much to make money. No, you don't. You need to sell that much so you can create the machine that is going to give you the lifestyle, so you don't have to stay on hold with Americo, so you can have an assistant, so you can put back money into ads and marketing to recruit people to your agency, right? So are you spending any money to build your agency? I would say most, no. Well, you should do that, or you should strive to do that. And it starts today by planting the first seed. So when you get to the end of the week and you go, I did pretty good, I can go buy an extra case of beer at the end of the week. Just laughing. None of you here said that. But if that's you, like, hey, I'm doing pretty well. I'm better than what I used to be. Well, no, you're not even close enough. If you're not spending money and growing your business, what happens the next time you go through a dry run, right? So that's the humble and hungry, right? You stay humble so you don't go too far left. So you stay in practice, you keep your confidence up, you stay sharp. You're a professional. And when you're in momentum, you know it because you can predict the future. You can predict if I have these 30 appointments a week, I'm going to sell 10 families. I know what's going to happen. Now, it might be 98 this week and 11-2 next week, but it's going to be 10 families a week. And I might even have a bad week, but I'm not going to have a bad month, right? Professionals that have mastered this momentum wave, they know that. Amateurs, 1 minute, I'm getting rich. The next minute, it's like, I'm going to die. The sky's falling. America's going to terminate me. This sucks. I don't have any money for leads. So be a professional, right? Stay sharp, stay around the fire, surround yourself with people that are winning and talking positive. Get a schedule that you can commit to come hell or high water, right? And if you tell yourself, I'm going to be here at 8 and you show up at 8:05, shame on you. And be accountable to somebody else, right? Be like office furniture. Right? What does that mean, right? When you go into the office, you turn the light on, it's there. You leave the office, it's there. It's rainy out, it's there. It's your birthday, it's there. Success is boring, I'm afraid to say. Any amount of success I've ever had, there's a video of it somewhere. Maybe I was on a stage somewhere and it looked cool for a second, but the real success comes in the boring things about being on live dials and making the calls that no one saw. And, maybe you're not even proud of because you got frustrated for a moment and maybe even dropped a cuss a time or two, and that's okay. But that is what's necessary.